Hello, hello, my friends. It is Hondo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class. Fuck, that's the wrong show. Hello there, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. We are here to talk about the most recent episode of the Acolyte Night, episode 5, a sensationally violent, brutal fucking bloodbath, laced with some amazing character development that I'm so excited to talk about. I'm so excited to give some analysis on my end. I had a little bit of a Twitter thread pop off this week, going full lightsaber go burr, and I'm just going to be wildly gesturing with this because it can't be any more dangerous than it is to be around. Spoilers, come here. But I am not alone. Case and Breon should be joining us any moment now, but we also have some lovely guests, namely fellow member of the Wayseeker Alliance. It's Bill the Thrill Kentucky One Sheehy.
I draw my card and activate my Star Wars theory card.
Oh, so we just all lost like all our brain cells.
We did, all 8 of them.
All of us just start saying dumb shit for money.
That's my fucking script. Anyway, happy to be here. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk about Acolyte.
I am very excited. And joining us as well is dear friend of the show, Regobah Regan herself, or Darth Ragus.
Well, you mentioned Star Wars theory, and now I'm impotent. But besides that, I'm doing very, very well.
He's not ready for impotent. Regan, I'm going to full screen you for one moment. What you got there?
My lover, my overlord, my master. I am his acolyte.
Yes. Okay. I feel that. So, Regan, if I can ask you, real quick, do you have any plans on getting some new TNAP merch anytime soon?
Oh, yes. Actually, there is one piece of TNAP merchandise I have been particularly interested in.
Would it happen to be the brand new Cookie Cup vintage t-shirt available exclusively over at the Nerd Academy Podcast Student Store?
It's
away from the cookie jar.
I don't think I will. I want to be as close to the cookie jar as I can be. I want to hold him in my embrace.
Just as a warning, Bill, being as close to the cookie jar as possible is how we got the very first plot line of Epic Confrontations.
That's so true. So true.
That was when everything went wrong. When I became haunted by Cookie Cop, a bit that grew far too many legs. But yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, if you go to the student store link on our website, nerdacademypodcast.com, it'll take you to our TeePublic, where you can get your hands on the Cookie Cop vintage t-shirt design that I made over the course of 2 hours last week, giggling to myself the entire fucking time.
Listen, I go out in Lexington a lot, and I want to be the first person that asks me about Cookie Cop when I wear this shirt out inevitably, and just see their reaction.
Everybody's got to get it. Everybody has to get the Cookie Cop shirt.
It's a Cookie Cop summer. Everyone knows it. You know it. I know it. It's Cookie Cop summer. I mean, it's just simple. I mean, look at the Star Wars Oreos to all that. That's what you put in Cookie Cop.
I would literally not be friends with any of you were it not for this little man. So
isn't that insane?
It's
isn't that literally insane?
Well,
Cookie Cop is the key to all of this.
Cookie Cop is the key to all this, and because of that, you got to go see a Broadway show.
I have always said it's the Jared cinematic universe, but I think we actually all know it is the Cop cinematic universe.
Because I have a massive ego. It is the Jared cinematic universe. Cookie Cop is just the Thanos of it.
Cookie Cop is inevitable.
Yes, I will die defeating Cookie Cop. But all of that to say, before we jump into the episode, and if you at home or a Jackie Jam or in the Yord Horde or decided you were going to make one of those red shirt Jedi your glup shitto, if you're feeling down after the massacre we witnessed on Tuesday, I think there's no better way to get over that by finding joy in the bottom of a bottle with a jar of Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. They also have their equally award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus. So you can garnish that bad boy and get your freak on and just zhuzh it up real nice like you see here in this little picture. As a former bartender, I've said many times I make a mean Bloody Mary from scratch, and the only Bloody Mary that rivals a from scratch Bloody Mary, that surpasses it in most cases, is Sunday's Bloody Mary, the only Bloody Mary mix I will willingly use. So use the link in the description down below and use the code TNAP, TNAP at checkout to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it.
I love being judged, so thank you.
Get a little zhuzh in there.
Nothing like a Jared zhuzh job.
What? How do you spell zhuzh? Is that with a J?
No fucking clue. No fucking
With a
clue.
Z. It's ZH.
A Z? What? Well,
Yeah,
JZJ
like
then.
ZHUZUSZH.
God, I
It's Yiddish.
would never. It's okay. Gotcha. Well, mazel. I don't even know if that's right. If it is, if it's wrong, I'm so sorry. But either way, let's get some zhuzh.
You know, I've slowly been coming to terms with the idea that I may never be palatable enough for Star Wars social media to pay attention to me. And
Why do you say that?
I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like the Star Wars account liked my thread about Chimere's fighting style today. I'm like, oh, that's neat. And then I see a post on Twitter that says Swagman, let's do butt stuff. And I'm like, that's so fucking funny. And I'm like, and that's why I'll never be at a premiere. And that's why I will never get an invitation. Because we're the pirate radio of Star Wars fandom, baby.
So true. Oh,
no
God.
Rules, no laws. Anyway.
Look at all these rules. Oh no, thank you.
Our mascot's a cop. There are no rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on.
Regan, how are you feeling about Acolyte up to this point?
It was just like the red wedding of Star Wars episodes.
I've been loving that comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of did have a feeling, like, just understanding like the budgeting of TV shows and especially knowing what they were working with, particularly in the Star Wars universe. My first thought when they announced this casting was that I wasn't sure how they were going to be able to afford everyone that they had hired, at their standard rate. So it makes a lot of sense that they killed a lot of people off early. And I will just say it misused Carrie-Anne Moss gravely. But I had a good
episode with her.
Yeah.
We still have at least an episode with her.
But it was an ass episode. Like, she's Carrie-Anne Moss. She should be fighting a lot in Star Wars,
I think we're gonna get a whole ass episode of her.
I do too. I also like the shock value in that too. Like, did a lot for me because I was like, oh, she's like on the poster, which is right behind you. Like in the usually the people that are like big in the poster are like there for the whole series, and they're like, I think it's a bold thing to do. Honestly,
I feel stupid because for the last 3 weeks on both on Bombad and in the chat of Bombad, I have been like just screaming at everybody who suggested that Chimere was Darth Teeth. I was so angry. I was like, no, it's definitely a woman. I wanted it to be Indara so badly because I felt that Carrie Ann Moss was so misused. And I didn't think, like, I thought if it was going to be revealed to be him, that it would be the most enormous letdown. But that man played it so well, well. And my head is now messed up about it in so many ways. But he was just so smooth and so like, he just went from being like kind of dipshitty to immediately incredibly like menacing and threatening. And like, what I really liked was kind of just how it makes sense that like one of the earliest Sith we see, like, I guess on screen, not counting maybe video games and stuff like that, is somebody who looks like they could have been a school shooter at some point. I hate to use that terminology, but like has that completely just unstable, like almost radicalized young guy vibe who just happens to be very, very strong and powerful. I hope I didn't make a very, like, I didn't mean to make an improper analogy, and I'm sorry if that was.
No. There's, I mean, it's not like I don't make, right-wing analogies all the time when it comes to the dark side. No, there is that element of like you can see that like radicalized wayward youth thing in him, and I think that's very apt.
What I think is interesting about like the reveal is that like you could like, I think Leslie Headland said this in the EU article that came out after the episode, that like she didn't hide it. Like this was not something that like she was like, yeah, you can probably see this coming. But I think what's so great about the reveal is that like it found different ways to surprise me. Just like the brutality of him. Like I think we've seen Vader be we've seen Sith be, kind of brutal in live, not in live action, but I don't think we've seen like like the 3 holes in Jekki and like the neck snap and all the stuff that they were able to do. They found really surprising, insane ways to like kill these Jedi that I just like was not expecting. And it was like, oh shit. So like, we're 5 episodes in. We've lost like 5 of the 5 main characters that we thought were going to be like crucial to this show, and like I kind of think we could lose everybody like at this point. Like this is
that's what I think too.
It just feels like that's where this is going.
And also, I kind of think that like something that stood out to me was that like Vader and Kylo Ren. And not Maul as much, because Maul, I think probably until the Vader comics, Maul had maybe the greatest like development that really made him deep in the cartoons. But they haven't necessarily always done the best job of making the Sith not appear goofy in some way on screen. Like like Darth Vader's like first like saber fight that we ever see notoriously is always joked as looks like 2 old men like fighting with a cane. And God knows Kylo Ren, as much as we all love him, as much as we are Ben Solo stans in this chat, like he was, he was goofy emo Skywalker child like the entire time. This guy, like that, I mean, even before the reveal, even like just from that moment in the previous episode in Day where he just like kind of sails up, he's just scary. Like he's scary the way that like Vader in the comics is scary. He's scary the way that Vader in Rogue One was scary. And like we haven't really seen that on in the streaming series at all, period. There's been nothing that's really made you go and I gasped. It was same. Yeah.
No, absolutely. There's so much truth to that. I agree, like Khofar was like the obvious choice. And again, there's, as I've said this 1,000 times, I'll continue to say it, this show has way more interest in how and why than who. And, it just gives you an opportunity to just sit with, kind of the tragedy. Like, I think there's a really beautiful metatextual thing happening with not framing the mystery of it all as mysterious to the audience, because for us, like, we see all of these horrible things coming. Like, we're spending the entire the entire show screaming at the characters, get out of the way of the train, get out of the way of this, get out of the way of that, you know, trying to avert calamity, but they can't hear us. And they continue running headlong into disaster. You know, it's so I really did like the Khmer reveal. You know, I've been a very big proponent of, you know, Joseph Scrimshaw was talking a lot about this on Force Center in the past few weeks. This idea that Khmer is like the dark reflection of Yoda's you know, cute little deception of Luke. That, you know, it is the I'm going to act low status to test how you react to me in this state. And when you and I will learn so much about you from there. And then when you find out that I am this all powerful being, I'll watch. I will inevitably watch your opinion of me change. And it's a very fascinating character beat. You know, I think one of, and this is saying a lot considering again just the viciousness and the brutality of the episode. One of the most chilling moments in this show so far was, you know, he's monologuing in the sinister, the stranger voice, you know, the Jedi don't want me to exist. And he's hitting all of those beats and he's doing the whole monologue and he looks over at me and just, oh, hello.
Yep.
Like starts playing Khmer again. Like that was so unfucking nerving. And adds that layer of horror to it. You know, a lot of conversations have been had about the like the horror sensibilities in last week's episode, in the way that the stranger, Darth Teeth, Khmer, whatever we want to call him. I realized that I need to stop calling them Darth Teeth because when my thread about his fighting style popped off, most of the quote tweets are people who have not watched the show being confused, thinking that Darth Teeth is actually this character's name. And I've replied to several, like, no, this is a jokey little fan name because we don't have a Darth title for him if he even has one.
It's Darth What the Mouth Do.
It's Darth What That Mouth Do.
Which is of course Sith for what do that mouth do.
Yeah, and I was like, I wanted to be courteous and not like, because I say like spoilers in the thread because I didn't want to be like, this is Khmer's fighting style.
Well,
like I used a picture of him where he still has the helmet on, and I used Darth Teeth as the name, and then like literally the next tweet down just says Khmer. Like I dropped the
yeah, we know
in the second tweet. Because I'm like, this is your warning. Run away if you haven't seen the episode, but I have thoughts. And now I have all these people quote tweeting me going, his name's Darth Teeth? That's fucking crazy. And I'm like, no, god damn it, no.
What did George want to name Starkiller at first?
This is the fourth time in a week that someone has asked me this question, and it makes me so happy.
Well, I just assume you would know. Like, just
yes, you'd be right. Hayden Blackman and the development team on Force Unleashed wanted to give Starkiller a Darth title. And George is basically like, I don't want to add any more to like the prequel era Banite Sith. So your options are Darth Icky and Darth Insanius.
Darth Icky.
To which everybody on the development team for Force Unleashed went, he is called the Secret Apprentice, which is deeply funny.
Do you think we'll end up getting a name? Like he'll get a Darth title, like off that's like.
I want to put a pin in that. I want to because that's I we'll probably circle back to it very soon. But no, but I do think like Khmer just is so, or the stranger, is so terrifying. You know, like it's like this. I think one of the things that has made him scarier in retrospect is this confirmation of Khmer is not this fucker's name. That's a persona. It's an alias. And like there was a moment where we could hold on to who we thought he was. And even the name Khmer, not just the act, the name, the entire idea of Khmer is a lie. Like we don't know how much of that, oh yeah, I was running guns for the Hutts and I was a scoundrel and I was this and I was that. We don't know how much of that's fucking true at all. But like I was saying earlier, like with the horror sensibilities, with the way he's shot and the way he's framed in the previous episode and in this episode, I was talking about this on For the Republic, and Reagan, you brought it up earlier. Like Vader in Rogue One is what a lot of people love to use as like the proof of concept that you could do a horror Star Wars story, like on the big screen, not just a Death Troopers or a Red Harvest. And the thing with Vader as horror villain is that you have your like your classic unkillable slasher, right? It's Jason Voorhees. You can run him over. You can shoot him with a shotgun. If it knocks him down in the first place, he will get back up, and you've done nothing but piss him off.
Mm.
That there's that element with the stranger, Chimere, whatever. There is this very like it is this really terrifying amalgamation of like serial killer horror mixed with like demon crawled straight out of hell horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's equal parts like they're like this is a monster from the deepest pit of despair mixed with like also there is an actual serial killer on the loose.
I want to go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
That was Reagan.
Reagan. Sorry, go ahead.
So one thing that I just want to touch on that you mentioned before is how you felt like that the most terrifying moment was when he saw May and like snapped back into being Khofar. I felt like that was so perfect because like every like serial killer who had like someone complicit in what they were doing, that's that they like you get your disciple, you get like you groom your person by showing them like by making them crave flashes of that humanity. And I also think that that is why at the end, and I'm fairly sure he knows he has Osha and not May, but I think that's why you see him like being tender. I think that's why you see him like putting a blanket on her and gently putting a hand on her, because it's how you break somebody down to build them back up. It's classic behavior, and it was just so deeply unsettling.
2 points. I want to go off your point with how May and Osha are going to flip roles, where May is going to be with Soul and Osha is going to be with the stranger. That's like what I'm looking forward to the most in the next couple episodes, because like that is to me, okay, we've had for 16 years May's been training with her with the stranger, and Osha's been training with Soul, or as on and off. I want to see what May learns from Soul, and I want to see what Osha learns from the stranger. Second point, going off the horror villain thing. What was so interesting to me is that in your thread, Jared, you talked about the unpredictability of his style. He's unpredictable, but there was no point in that fight where I was like, oh, that dude's not in control. He was in control the entire time. And the unpredictability was the scariest part to me, because like I didn't know what he was going to do, but like I knew that he was in control the entire time, which is even more terrifying. And that's like I don't think we've seen a villain like that. I don't think we've seen anything. It's certainly not in live action. Maybe in the comics, but like it's just such an interesting dynamic to me, because what we've gotten so far, like we've gotten like the former Jedi and Dooku and Anakin, and sometimes we get the brutality. He fucking killed kids. So like but like no place where this would like has it been scarier than this episode.
Absolutely, and like that tenderness, Reagan, that you brought up. It betrays an ideology in Khmer that I find very unique in him. That I'm very fascinated to see how it plays out from here. And circling back to the Darth title conversation, I'm having a like this is something that that surprisingly really stumped me with what I think is going on. Like I am very like I find myself like swinging back and forth on like what I think the status of his alignment is. I think that I think the theory that I've heard floating around that I like the most and what I think is what might be at play. But I can't say anything with any confidence because I truly don't know. Um, is I like the idea that Kymir, the stranger, is is or at least was the Sith apprentice, and that's been something that I've been very into this whole time. Is that he was the apprentice trying to find his own student that he could enlist to help him overthrow his master. Um, very Star Killer. Uh, the wrinkle there that is introduced in this episode is in that conversation with Soul. I don't have a name, but a Jedi like you would call me Sith.
Mm.
The way that he does not openly identify as a Sith, but is also like, I also know that if you tell the Jedi about me, I'm a dead man. I find interesting, and I think that I fall in the camp, at least for now, uh, of Kymir is a Sith apprentice who could not, because of his obsession with like wanting to use this power wantonly, freely, with no inhibition, because he's so caught up in that, basically said, fuck the rule of two. Fuck the rule of two. I'm tired of hiding. I want to let my dark side freak flag fly. And, start implementing elements of the Sith Grand Plan early. And there was all this idea that we need to secure, at least with Legends and the Banite Sith, that we need to secure institutional power and then use that to erode the Jedi from the inside. The Kymir's kind of doing that here.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to. He's implementing it a little too early, and he was very okay with like, all right, motherfucker's got to die now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like if he's already like the Jedi already think that there's like a rogue Force user in the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're good, Regan. Yeah, they already think, again, they're not saying the S word.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't saying that it is any type of specific uh sect of Force observance. It is just, oh, there's some type of Force user who's fucking shit up. So like, yeah, they were already ready to fuck up whoever was the problem. But here now, it's this Darksider who like caught all these bodies. Now you're a problem, whether or not you're a Sith. Whether or not you are a Dark Lord of the Sith, yeah, they're gonna come for you. And this weird, very entitled, and again, Reagan, it goes back to what you mentioned and what I was absolutely thinking as well. And I love that you brought it up. Or at least you gave me the cover of not having to be the first one to use the word radicalization. That Kymir, again, he is this like radicalized youth who has this like really macabre worldview on an already sketchy philosophy. So it just terrifies me. So I don't know if he has a Darth name yet. He might still be occupying that Lord space.
But there is
bugged
also
out.
still the element that he could still be a false flag, as scary as he is.
Yeah. What if? So I don't think we've talked about it yet, but I've seen it on Twitter. Kylo Ren's theme playing at the end when he's looking over Osha. Do you guys think that's like just like okay, like sometimes music is gonna like sound similar, or do you think that's like okay, we're all focused on you might call me Sith, but maybe this is a Knight of Ren, like this is the first or
It's like
one
a
of the
proto Knight
yeah,
of Ren.
yeah, absolutely. What do you think?
But also, I mean, there's very rarely an instance where like the music is used casually,
Mhm.
like they're
Did
very
they
very
do?
deliberate.
Did they use Rey's theme recently? And was it in Ahsoka or something like that, where it was kind of and it didn't end up like being much of anything, or like am I?
I don't know. I don't remember race theme coming up in Ahsoka. I was very much, and this is where this isn't necessarily a criticism, but I am confused by it. I pointed this out when I saw the first two episodes in the theater. In the second episode, they use like the main melody from Return to Tatooine from
Mm.
Attack of the Clones, that like that very mysterious, like it's like the main menu music for the Revenge of the Sith game. Um, they use that, and it's kind of out of nowhere. Like it's a great tone setter for the moment. Um, but there isn't really a follow up on what that is supposed to represent in the moment and why that leitmotif is showing its face. I think if they intentionally use like Kylo Ren arrives at the battle, like that leitmotif that like became his main melody throughout the sequels. I don't. I think if anything, they are trying to musically like call attention to the parallel of like the use of a, for lack of a better term, dark sider, because that doesn't quite apply to Ben, but also he just turned back to the light, so whatever. Using like a healing ability. So I think that might be what they're going for. But I think it also may have just like compositionally just kind of strayed a little too close to Kylo Ren arrives at the battle for it to be a little jarring. But I don't know. He could be the first Knight of Ren. He could be the first Knight
Well,
of
I
Ren.
also kind of felt like the shape of the helmet also was just a little too deliberate. You know what I mean?
It felt really Kylo,
and I felt like I could. Yeah, and I felt like I could see some retconning at some point, probably in the written material, that like suggesting that somehow, like it became that shape became, that it was kind of adopted for some ceremonial reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
that
I
like
don't know. It
that
was
like
just
each Ren has to have their own like goofy fucking helmet. I mean,
right.
listen,
Like
Element 7 pointed it out on TikTok, and it's one of those situations where like I don't love the Knight of Ren theory, which is crazy for me to say. Like I've been loving this show so much, and I'm sitting here with a Kylo Ren tattoo on my thigh. Like I'm, like I know it's kind of weird for me to be like, oh yes, this show I love that might end up being my favorite Star Wars show. I kind of don't want this to involve Kylo Ren in any real way.
right.
Um, I know it sounds crazy on its face, but like I can't say that the theory doesn't have legs. And Element 7 pointed out, he's like, who created the or it might have been on Force Center, but like who created the Knights of Ren, or not the creator of the Knights of Ren, but like gave them like a backstory. Charles Soule,
Right.
who is like one of the heavy hitter flagship writers for the High Republic era. Charles Soule, who is one of the like, hey, like these are one of the eyes that scripts need to pass. So like we are keeping things cohesive in terms of canonicity. Charles Soule. So like there is a route here to say that like, yeah, like this is explaining like this specific sect of the dark side, but the flip side of that, where I still am not quite ready to let go of Chimere being a dark lord of the Sith, is how much the word Sith has been used by Leslie Headland. But that could also just be somebody using Sith and dark side synonymously.
Well, but also remember
You know?
that she's trying to go for like 3 or 4 seasons of this. So my feeling is I agree with Bill that I feel like everybody's gonna die before the end of this season is over. But I think we're hearing that word out of her mouth a lot because she's the first person that's gonna do 4 seasons focused on the actual Sith, who, in my opinion, at this point, are a lot more interesting to see on screen, and I'm a lot more invested in. No shade to the Jedi, but
we've had our fill of canon Jedi. We have not gotten like an on-screen new canon Sith Lord at all yet.
I don't know if you all have mentioned this before in previous episodes, but like speaking of the Jedi, like I remember last week or the week before when they did the flashback where they talked about, oh, this breaks canon, and the Jedi are always the good guys, and I'm like, what an interesting like concept. Where of course like you're taking a child from their family, like there's something fucked up about that. So like what I appreciate about this show, the first 2 episodes, frankly, I was about to leave for a cruise, and I was kind of like, oh, I gotta watch this real quick before I go to bed, so I didn't really appreciate it. But if nothing else, like to show like all these different, to tell a new story and tell a story that's like interesting and that I don't know where they're going and telling a new perspective, I think is cool. Like I don't prescribe to the like idea that this is like ruining Star Wars or breaking canon in any way. Star Wars, like if it's going to continue, needs to evolve and change. And so like I think at the end of the day, you can evolve and change with Star Wars, or you can just be like some people that we won't mention that we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and just be a dick. So,
Well, the thing that I find so frustrating about a lot of the discourse around this show, and it is from two very different but frustrating sects of the fandom, where there's the side of the fandom that like has never understood Star Wars, has never appreciated Star Wars for what it actually is and what it's about. That just has this deranged, like it has to be this, that, and this. And it, even though it's never been just those things, bizarre dude bro fantasy, whatever, who do the it breaks canon because it has introduced a concept that is on the surface similar to something to do with Anakin Skywalker, and because their special white boy might have to share the idea of being a Force miracle birth with two black women, that in some way like lessens him, and that's just bizarrely racist in a very like unquantifiable way.
also like obviously they were gonna like experiment beforehand. Like it didn't just like happen. Like
Well, there's that, and then the other side of the fandom that is also getting this show wrong. Because you have that same side that's all weird and precious, that is like, oh no, like they're saying that the Jedi are bad, that this institutional power has to be bad because of woke. And then the other side of the fandom is that demands that Star Wars like change its mind on everything to be right. For lack of a better term, the same people who did the whole, Andor's the only good Star Wars show because it's not that dumb baby Yoda schlock.
I hate that. I
Who
really hate that.
Well, it's also like today. I mean, I was like, I have to. I know that Instagram comments, particularly for some reason, have gone to the seventh circle of hell. But like every Star Wars Instagram post, like they post fan art, they do anything. It is just a bunch of, I'm sorry, the crustiest unfuckables you have ever seen in your life, just going wokalite, 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 wokalite. I'm so glad you lost $180 million, and like they haven't watched an episode of it. You know what I mean? And to me, this is of all of the streaming series so far, this to me is the easiest one to be able to connect to if you know nothing else about Star Wars. If you're coming in for the first time here, there's like you can completely be invested in the story, you can understand it, and it's really good and it's really fresh. And to like kind of echo what Bill said, Star Wars has to evolve. If Disney, honestly, I don't want to, not bow to our overlords, but if they have committed to squeezing every last fucking dollar out of this franchise that they can, with as many series and as much as they like, it has to evolve or it's going to be unbelievably boring. And I know that these people want to live in the Skywalker saga forever. I know that like their greatest wet dream is to bring everything from Legends back into canon, which I almost understand because they took out a lot of things that I particularly really enjoyed. But there is not only is there so much here, especially in this, like I had sorry to my boss who's probably watching this, Joe, I love you, you know that I love you, but like literally today I just had to sit here while he was yelling at me about how bad the writing was, and I was just over and over again I was kind of trying to be like, the only time I thought the writing was a little bit bad was when it was all from the perspective of the two little girls. And I think that was because it was from the perspective of two little girls. So it was clunky. But I'm like it wasn't. And this last episode, if like, even if you hated the first four, even if you thought they were garbage, I feel like any Star Wars fan, even the most diehard Menace Star Wars fan, could have come in at this episode and have been like, holy shit, this was fucking good.
Yeah. And I sat there with Kristen and was like, I don't know what anybody can harp on. Like, what's there not to like? Like, it had lightsaber combat. Like, I'm just gonna the best lightsaber choreography, the best action choreography in a Star Wars anything, maybe ever. So like, it had. I was shocked the entire time. It showed me something totally new and like and fun. Like that is the Star Wars that I love. It's Jedi. It's space wizards with laser swords, fucking going at it. And like, what do you want? And like, also, whenever I hear anyone say the writing's horrible, it's usually from people that like couldn't pass a 10th grade English class. So like, I'm that. Also,
the writing's bad. What does that mean?
What? Okay, what's bad about it? Tell me.
What don't you like? Do you not like the dialogue? Okay, fair. What about it? Like,
well, it's woke. Do you ever think of that?
But
and also, like, I hate. Like, look, I'm going to be very blunt. What even is woke about it? Okay, so you have a couple of people of color, and you have 2 lesbians, and possibly a third if Jackie had lived. Like, you know, like what is it? What is the like the thorn in everybody's side? Because as far as I know, you exist on the same planet Earth that I exist on, where there are shockingly people of color and lesbians. So it's not different than going outside your house, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Also,
but they don't go outside.
I was going to say there's the issue with your
Let
argument.
me say this: they introduced lesbian space witches. And you don't think that's the coolest thing you fucking heard in your entire life? Like, yeah, that rocks. I want that.
Well,
but you know what? My neighbor said something that was so key. It was just like they want you know those are the people to whom lesbians exist for girl on girl and nothing more. You know, that
is very astute and very accurate. But yeah, so what I was saying earlier, just before I lose this in my mind. Like you have the like Star Wars has to like justify itself retroactively. So yes, this show is saying that the Jedi have always been bad and they are bad and and it's like, okay, none of you fucking get it. The show is putting the Jedi on trial. The show is saying that the Jedi are a flawed institution. By all accounts, this show is also saying that the Jedi are a net good. Mm-hmm. They are a net good that needs some work. That like and the fact that there are 2 like parts of the fandom that are, I'm not going to say equally annoying, because one of them is just a bunch of mouth breathing, knuckle dragging fucking crypto nut fascists, and the other side are just people who just have fucking Twitter brain. Mm-hmm. But like neither of you get what this show's going for. And Regan, there's one thing I'm going to push back on you with the like the absurd, like, you know, like everything from Legends needs to come back. That's not what they fucking want. What they want are like out of context fucking YouTube video fight clips.
Yeah,
that's all they want. All they want is a scene where Luke Skywalker is fighting like some Sith Lord with like a 5-bladed lightsaber and a mohawk and a nose ring. Like that's what they fucking want.
Jared.
With zero context, with zero theme, with zero character development. Just Mark Hamill doing flips, and Darth Vader flying, and that's all they fucking want. They don't want actual fucking character development. I will eat my fucking crock right fucking now if half of these fucking people can look me in the eye and tell me they actually read the book where Luke Skywalker fights Luke Skywalker. Fuck you, not you.
I read the book,
but the abstract.
Also, like,
you did.
You know what these people want?
And I only read it like a month ago.
You know what they want? And not because I don't love them, but like they want the Old Republic cinematic videos when the Old Republic MMO was coming out. That's what they
all
want.
They want.
And those are great, but like you can't. Those are what, like 4 or 5 minutes. Like you can't. I want to see the next part. Like. Make those moments count, make them warranted, and make them deserved, you know?
You know what I think also? I think a lot of these people's love of Star Wars was galvanized in the absence of Star Wars. So Star Wars for them has always been what they were able to project on it and fantasize about. And when that wasn't made reality, they got really angry, you know? And like to me, I really I was thinking about it this morning. Like, there has never been a moment through all of these streaming series, like even through, like through Rise of Skywalker, which was certainly imperfect. I love Star Wars, so I'm
I would
never
never
not
say
happy.
that. It's a beautiful film. I don't know what you're talking about.
But I'm never not happy that they're Star Wars. I'm
Mhm.
just like, I can't imagine being angry at Star Wars, because it feels like if you are a fan of something, because it is an ever expanding and diverse universe, when it shows up and it's different, that should be exciting to you. That should be interesting.
I agree.
That's something new to explore, like I love getting handed new planets. I love watching the galaxy expand. I cannot fathom being so frothingly angry. It's entertainment. If it doesn't entertain you, walk away. It's not that difficult.
I agree.
I mean, and I know you're not asking for this answer, but it's one that I feel obligated to give just on this issue. I was toying with this. I made a joke about it on the live stream I did this week. I've mentioned it in passing. I really do think I'm going to be beginning work on the Fandom Menace and How We Got Here Part 3.
Ooh.
Hell yeah.
Because thank you. I mentioned that to Mitch on Pro and Noob, and he was like, "Please do." He was like, "We need it," but no, I can't answer that. And it is a very particularly this is going to get really real for a second. In the way
Okay.
that you can't live in a fully developed country that is the product of settler colonialism and not and be a white person that does not have at least some sense, be it conscious or subconscious or subconscious, a sense of entitlement over culture at large. That there is a deep-seated knee-jerk refusal of things that are radically different from how you think they are supposed to be, especially when it comes to other people's other faces and other voices, and lives that do not directly line up with how you imagine it's supposed to be, that bring a lot of baggage with it. Yeah, new Star Wars is woke because there's a lot of women and people of color in it, because it's weirder when there's not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the inability to recognize that popular media and popular culture cannot and frankly should not revolve around five fucking white people.
And
Like that, and it's that idea, again, consciously, subconsciously, whatever, that is the driving force of all of this, that will always be. It's never been about fires in space. It's never been about training levels. It's never been about Coyote motherfucking Mundi. It's never been about any of this shit.
happy
There's
birthday, by the way. He's a little older than we thought. Who knew?
and I
Isn't
know
that
I said
great?
this. I know I said this on every show I've guested on in the last week. I'm gonna full screen myself, and this will be my last word on it.
Do it. Tell
I'm
him.
the only fucking person on the goddamn internet who ever gave a damn about Coyote Mundi. I went to war for this fucking conehead. Every time I'd see a viral tweet, shouts out Nude Gunray. He's one of my favorite fucking Star Wars Twitter accounts. That dude is so fucking funny, and I love him. I love a Nude Gunray post on my timeline. I truly do. But people like that degenerate motherfucker are constantly talking shit about my boy, about my glub shitto, and I'm supposed to just sit here and take it. And then in the golden age of the Jedi Order, we find out that Coyote Mundi was around and was already a master, and he joins the long list of long-lived species, and this is so cool. And one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and I'm not being ironic, I'm not doing a bit, one of my favorite Star Wars characters shows up in live action in white and gold High Republic robes for just a moment. But there's so much fun implication of what that means, and so many adventures we could potentially see of High Republic Coyote Mundi. And then these knuckle-dragging fucking troglodytes ruined that for me, and I'm never going to forgive any of you for that. Never, ever, ever am I going to forgive any of the people who started a culture war over Coyote goddamn Mundi. I'm never gonna forgive you. You took a special moment away from me. This was my Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian, Nyatos, and I'm coming for you, motherfucker, because I'm gonna get mine back.
Well said.
I just
I can't remember if
I love this guy.
I do
I love
too.
this guy. And now there's a culture war over him.
He canonically fucks, which is also pretty cool. But I'll also say, like, I think someone made the point. Forget what series it was before, where it was like Lord of the Rings or somebody. People were bitching about, like, they had black dwarves and stuff like that. And it's like there are fucking dwarves, elves, and like dragons, and the least believable part is that there are people of color in it.
Right.
Like, what are we
doing? Like Matt
what are
Walsh
we-
with like
what are we doing?
scientifically it would be impossible for a mermaid to be black, and it's like you just say scientifically impossible in the same sentence as fucking mermaid.
Mermaid.
Anyway,
Mm. Mm.
there is no passion, there is serenity.
Through passion, my chains are broken.
Fuck.
I know that's wrong, but still.
Bill, you're egging me on. I'm like, okay, Jared, come down. Talk about the episode. No culture war. No culture war. And Bill's like, yeah, culture war, Jared. Get angry.
Well,
Anyway,
to bring it back to the episode for a second,
Yes.
something else that I would like to talk about is why can't the Jedi sense anything at all?
I don't think that. No,
I think this shows like that the High Republic Jedi are like becoming closer to the Jedi that we see in the prequels.
Right.
Because like a couple things. Soul couldn't tell it wasn't Osha.
Right.
Which that's like this is your apprentice. You should know that by now.
Not only, but the cutting of the braids wasn't convincingly the same length of hair.
No, absolutely not. And like
I think he might be playing along, but that's just me.
Well, if he is, he's given no indication, and that's if God love them if they do that. But like, it feels like these Jedi are full of themselves, and like they're worried about politics. They're not worried about what's best for the galaxy. I was rereading they did a thing recently with like Rey giving a description of kind of where like her mind's going to be in like her in her movie, and it's like the early Jedi would like just try to heal the wounds of the galaxy and go from there. They're not doing that anymore. They're not healing the wounds. They're just worried about politics. They're worried about that kind of stuff. So I think that's where they are.
That's a good answer. If I were to go on a more like this, you gave the smart person's answer.
Well,
I'm going to give.
First time.
I'm going to give like the I'm a nerd and it's a wonder that I've ever kissed somebody before answer.
I know it well.
Mildly keeping that PG. Everybody knew what I meant by that. But no, so I think that for me, the reason I've never had an issue, and people are always doing the like, why couldn't they just sense them? It obviously recognize, just mean like in a bad faith kind of way. Like I've seen a lot of fandom menace people like doing that, and like while mentioning Palpatine in the same sentence, which just makes me cackle. But like, the Baneite Sith, and I am using Legends a little bit as a roadmap here. But just in that, like, we don't have a canon thing, so I'll use this as an analog, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The rule of like the early rule of two and all through the Bane line, there was a very heavy emphasis on mastering like techniques of concealing your presence in the Force, and kind of like temporarily not cutting yourself off, but kind of basically putting your connection to the Force on low power mode, for lack of a better term. In the Bane trilogy, it's how Xana penetrates and spends a crisp few hours inside of the Jedi Temple while talking to decorated masters and knights who are having full conversations with her, while she is masquerading as a whole ass other Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Like a actual Jedi with a name. pardon me, she has assumed the identity of, and is just focusing her energy into not revealing herself. And I think that that is a tool that that would have become just absolutely important to the Sith of this age. You know, we see Plagueis, who is, you know, a absolute titan in the dark side, do that, and you know, Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn and I believe Sifo Dyas were all in a room with him, like having a meeting with Higo Damask, and they didn't know that was the reigning Dark Lord of the Sith. You know, same thing with like a room full of Jedi Council members sitting in front of arguably the most powerful Sith in both timelines. So I think that there is that in this age of having to be cloak and dagger, there's an overemphasis on like you need to be good at this thing, because for us to do our job, we are going to inevitably cross paths with the Jedi. And for us to not have our cover blown, we need to not have to fight them. And I think that it's a very interesting wrinkle with Kymir's character, that with him and with this ideology of like radical liberation from the constructs of like the force of the dominant force religions, that he is so gifted at concealing his presence within the force, because he's, again, like my theory that like he's breaking away from the Bainite Sith because he just hates this shit that he's been forced to, and that there is a part of him that finds having to conceal his presence in the dark side abhorrent and insulting, and that like it is a talent he had to learn, but he doesn't like it. But he also knows, if I let the veil fall, the entire galaxy will feel me from a mile away. You know, it's why, you know, in going back to the Plagueis novel, you know, there are instances where like Plagueis is like, if I even tap into a scintilla of my power in the Force, I am going to send shockwaves through the fucking galaxy, because of how dormant we have artificially kept the currents of the dark side. So yeah, that's what I think that is. I think he's concealing himself within the Force, and in the moment where he's like, okay, like I'm gonna have to kill all these Jedi anyway. That when he starts to levitate, like that's the moment, like you see all those Jedi in the fourth episode go, whoa, and then by the time they turn around, it's this like toothy fucking horror monster looking them in the eye. So yeah, that's what I think that is. And again, just the idea of like concealing yourself within the Force is something that like I have known of as an ability for so long that like that kind of thing like never even crosses my mind. But like, I mean, it makes like it's one of those things, like it makes sense. But me, again, having, it's a marvel I've ever been in a relationship, let alone the one I'm in, that I can, that I know that, but that is my answer to that wrinkle.
But also to touch on something else that you kind of said about like we're seeing the Jedi become what they became at the beginning of the prequels. I do love the idea of exploring, as Luke put it so beautifully in The Last Jedi, the hubris of the Jedi.
And that's a big part of it too, yeah.
I also really, because I've always been somebody who's been enormously frustrated with the rigidity of a lot of the Jedi code. And I think we sort of, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I felt it in this episode so much, because there just sometimes it doesn't make sense not to kill somebody, even if it is, you know, even if they are unarmed and it is against everything that you believe. Like you should, even without attachment to the Force, you should have a gut instinct that someone is profoundly dangerous, and like you've just seen them slaughter, and you can barely overpower them. Like it makes no sense from any standpoint to not take advantage of an advantage in battle. And this is Star Wars, after all. It is war, you know? So I do think, like, I think exploring the folly of the Jedi, especially if this series is to continue and maybe we get a more thorough examination of the Sith, it is also important to really lay out the folly of the Jedi, because I think, you know, especially to people who aren't quite so literate with the Star Wars media in general. There is just this they are exalted in a way that they have clearly always not deserved. I mean, I know that certainly Jarod could go on endlessly about the many vices of Yoda, but
Well, we don't. I'm gonna, if I could briefly cut you off for one moment because we're gonna lose Bill here in a moment. Bill, and then I'm gonna respond to all of that, Reagan. Bill, final thoughts on the episode and pluggables, sir.
What a just truly profound, wonderful episode of The Acolyte. I literally can't think of anything that I didn't like about it. So I'm very excited to see the dynamic between May and Soul and the dynamic between Osha and the Stranger. I'm once again, Star Wars needs to evolve. It's evolving, and we should evolve with it. So, other than that, you guys can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. If you still want to, you can follow Skywalking Through the League. That'll probably become something new in the next few months. So we'll see where that goes. But love y'all, and I will talk to you soon.
Later, buddy.
bye, Bill. Love you. Oh.
Yeah, no, I like about a lot of what you were saying. I think it's fascinating because there are moments, it is the paradox of the Jedi Code, that there is. I mean, hell, it is the Batman paradox, of more lives will be lost if you don't kill the Joker. Like it's that thing, and the thing that and I think this is something you and I disagree on, Reagan, is that I do see sincere nobility and ideological consistency in those choices not to kill. I think it is what makes the moment before Anakin's betrayal so poignant, is seeing Mace Windu pushed to that point.
Right.
Because I truly do not know a single person who is a Star Wars fan who would not argue that Mace just right through the Emperor. How many, literally trillions of lives are saved between the genocide of the Jedi, the ethnic cleansing of the Geonosians, all of the conflict across the Galactic Civil War, Alderaan, flash forward 30 years, the Hosnian system,
Hosnian, yeah.
like Kijimi, like again, and this is off the top of my head, trillions of lives could have been saved with one swift blade stroke. And it is a moral conundrum. Like there is an argument to be made that, like, what do you do with Mace Windu after that? Like it was, like to use a very law and ordery term, because Taylor and I have been watching that here and there, like
Chung Chung.
dun dun, like it's kind of a bad shoot if you're a Jedi. He
But
was
it's
on
also
like
I feel like it does, and I think maybe in a lot of ways it's always been meant to speak to the inherent problems of morality in general. It's always been meant to speak to the problems inherent to dogmatic thinking. And I think I can't remember where I read this recently, but somebody was comparing like studies of the Force to like common metaphysical literature that's pretty popular today, and something that has really stuck with me is the idea that the Force just is. The Force just is. It is like the light and the darkness is truly incarnate in living beings, and like I know that I'm not going to get into the whole endless debate about gray Jedi and how they shouldn't exist, but it comes down to some, if there is such a thing as light and dark, then the virtuous quote unquote light decision sometimes requires dark action, because like life isn't as binary as that. And I have always felt personally, and this might be, maybe this is naive because I am not, the depth of my, I mean, I'm a pretty literate Star Wars person, certainly not quite as much as you, but that's always sort of been the logical fallacy of both the Jedi and the Sith to me, is that nothing is binary. Nothing is binary. And I always, I feel like I love Star Wars the most when it dips its toes into that understanding. And sometimes in this case, in this episode, I feel like the show left that for us to do. It left it for us to have that discussion, maybe more so than Soul, more so than the characters. But it is, I think you make an excellent point with Mace Windu, because it would have been so interesting to see those, to see the repercussions of him actually or the repercussions of him having not done that and lived could have been incredibly interesting, just from like an emotional standpoint too. But yeah, I hope that they give things like that the kind of intricate treatment that they have with a lot of themes in this show, because I think there's just so much to explore there.
I agree with you, man. And that's one of the things that I love about the conversations of balance. Like you know, obviously friends of the show, collaborate with them frequently. Comic Book Cast, I'm in their Facebook group, and there's been a lot of conversations where people are like, where this show is getting a lot of people to ask the really big hard questions about the Force. And I've been enjoying people allowing me to climb into the comments of those questions and be like, this is my interpretation, and this is where I've based it on. That I agree. Like the Force, in my opinion, um, exists in the light. What we define as the light side is the natural balance of things, and that balance comes in that we as human beings carry darkness within us, and it is our choice, and it is our choice is that dictate how much of that darkness will or won't consume us. The Force becomes out of balance when bad actors like the Sith, whose entire philosophy is rooted in throwing the balance of nature out of whack, that revolves around dominating nature and the galaxy at large. That is where imbalance comes from. It's not a matter of there are two Sith and there are two Jedi, so it's equal and opposite reactions. It is balance is the natural state of things, that light breeds life, and that in that light there is individual darkness that is up to the individual to grapple with. um, and I think this show does a really good job, as you were saying, Regan, to really hammer home that idea that it is not, Kymir's power is not what makes him a threat that the Jedi cannot allow to exist. It is how he uses that power. And the Sith ideology is this snake eating its own tail of, power is our only path to freedom. And with our freedom, we will subjugate those who lack the power so that the most powerful can rule, because our power gives us freedom. And it's just this circle of this fallacy of might makes right, that define the Sith. um that again, yeah, Chimera, maybe the Jedi should be more accepting of other Force faiths. Sure, the Jedi overstepped their bounds on Brendok. I agree.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, the Jedi overstepped their bounds on Brendok. The witches also were up to some fuck shit. And that is the thing that I was getting at earlier, that there are so many people who want this show to say the Jedi are bad, period, and not the Jedi are flawed, but sincerely have their hearts in the right place and are trying to do the right thing. And it is that institutional power and decadence that will be their downfall.
Right.
And I just find that insanely compelling.
And to that end too, I think I mean it seems to me that soul is very much used as the conscience of the Jedi, whereas you know, a lot of the rest of them are, you know, they are kind of the letter of the law of the Jedi. He is very much like to me he's just very he's kind of neutral good. Like he is coming from maybe the best place of any of them. His heart, I think, is is very pure there, and like whatever emotional conflict there is in him is only him wrestling with the repercussions of his own actions. And I think like it's very interesting to see him kind of up against Kynir, because they are very much exact opposites in a way. He is so wholly good and so wholly, like he has chaos in him as well, but his chaos is him again trying to negotiate his own past and his own deeds. And Kynir is, at least in my opinion, he is just 100% pure dark, just evil, and his chaos is just the darkness eating whatever is left of his humanity. And it's very, very interesting to kind of see them play off each other. But I just overall think the intricacies of the themes of the Force in this show are just, they're so interesting. And again, I think if you're coming into Star Wars for the first time and even learning about the Force, my feeling is what they have left us with in this last episode is a place where you can really get an education about it from the very beginning. You can really see it branching off and get some understanding of just what it means, even as esoteric as it is, you know?
Damn, you were cooking there. That is my reaction to that. Is damn, she cooked. No, I agree with so much of that. You know, I would love to have a conversation with somebody who this is their first Star Wars. I'd love to have that conversation.
You should have Annie Sheehy come on and talk about it, because it's not her first, but it's close to, and it would certainly like sort of like be her. You know, I would love to hear her. Annie, I would love to hear your take on the Force by the time the show is over.
I too would love to hear that, but yeah, I mean, before we bring it home here, man, like I do also just need to talk about the combat, which surprisingly, you know, we've kept it really on theme and character here. You know, I kind of got a lot of that out of my system with my long ass thread. And anybody who ended up here, by the way, from that thread, hello, potentially, if that, because I just realized that might be a thing. But yeah, no, I really did love this episode on that level. If I have one gripe, and this is very specific, and this is going to sound so dude bro-y, there was a weird quirk about the special effects. And I'm not saying that I needed to see like every single Jedi who died have like a gaping fucking hole in their chest.
Right.
You know, this isn't The Boys. I don't need the like obligatory like laser wound shot where I'm like looking at Homelander through the remains of somebody's skull. Like I don't need that shot in the Acolyte, where I'm looking through somebody's entrails. But it had that weird effect where like a lot of video games with like especially like The Force Unleashed 2 and The Force Unleashed, like they both have this is the perfect example where they have these like beautiful CGI cutscenes, but for whatever reason when somebody was hit with a lightsaber, it went through them, it glowed while it was in them, and then when you took out the lightsaber, there was just they looked unhurt, untouched.
Right.
And there was no like scoring, there wasn't that like glow effect when the lightsaber was piercing the wound, was piercing them to create the wound. Like I think like the one that stuck out in my mind the most was the Keldor, who gets like knocked to her knees, and then Khmer like and that like again you have the sound, there is a flash, and you see like a of like carbon and like smoke and ash as the wound or as the lightsaber creates the wound and then pulls back through. You see all of that, but when you look at her robe, it looks untouched.
Right.
And that was just a very minor gripe I had.
Well, but if we're gonna say that, this is me also saying I have personally noticed they have, to me, relied a lot more heavily on like, especially with the sabers in general, the audio effects much more than the visual effects. I noticed that very much in the first 2 episodes that I also saw in the theater. And I'm sure that's partially for budget constraints. I am also sure it's partially because they are using a lot of practical sabers that are not edited over a la, in TFA. I'm sure that there are reasons for that, but it has also not gone unnoticed by me.
They do have like the special effects glow put onto them. It's just that they're using like a practical, like they're basically using one of these lightsabers. They just
Right.
then go over it with
Yeah.
like beam to get that effect. Like there's a shot, I talk about this a lot, that again, like all the fucking dude bros magically don't notice. There's a couple shots in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian where the issue you're talking about is at play. There are several shots, and it's one of them is when Grogu's looking at like the security camera, and then another one is whenever Luke is out of focus. That is clearly an LED lightsaber, and not like the ILM VFX like
Yeah.
fucking plasma blade. So like I have noticed some like weird lightsaber effects, but I don't quite think it's that. That's just my opinion though. But just because I like my brain, like another part of my brain that the normal human mind isn't supposed to have activates when a lightsaber turns on, and I just like start seeing in like 4D. But no, but that was like my only real gripe with it. And I think the thing that made it stick out so much is that there were so many great visual choices in this episode, like with the lightsabers. Like again, obviously,
Right.
I had like a 10 tweet fucking thread
Oh,
about kind
which
of
also I didn't get a chance to mention this before, but when the episode begins and Osha is lying on the ground, is that a direct? I didn't go back and look at the old episode, but was that like an almost direct mirror of her when the prison ship crashed and she's lying in the snow and the snow is falling on her? Because I felt like those shots were quite identical. Am I crazy?
I don't know, but that's a really cool connection if you're right. And even if you're not, it's a cool parallel. But no, like there were so many cool choices visually. Again, the choreography I think was stellar.
Mm-hmm.
It had a brutality that you just don't fucking see in Star Wars that was just terrifying. Like again, we talked about the Jason Voorhees of it all with Darth Vader. The thing that makes the Rogue One hallway scene so particularly brutal is it's an audience thing. It is that we and the rebels in that hallway know this is a futile fight.
Right.
All you can do is delay him.
Is die. Yeah.
All you can do is die and try to make it. All you can do. Like the most brutal, like this is a visceral moment. Like parts of that scene are the guy that Vader like crushes into the ceiling and then hits on the backswing.
Right.
And then the guy who gets stabbed through the door. Like
Yes.
those are the brutal kills from that scene. Other than that, it's just guys shooting at Darth Vader while he cuts them down with his lightsaber.
Right.
It's terrifying because we all know that they know they can't kill him. All they can do is be inconvenient on the way to their death.
Absolutely.
With KNR, he is making choices in his kills that are fucking vicious. The Jedi kebab into the beheading, like that is horrific.
Well, also, like I think what served this really well is that the fight coordinator really understood that he wasn't trying to make it whoosh whoosh stylized, like
Yeah.
certainly not the way that like Ray Park does it, and certainly even to a large extent not the way that they did it for the sequel trilogy. It was supposed to look like people slugging it out, and it was supposed to look like someone. I get the sense that we're supposed to know that Kymir, like he wasn't spending his life studying saber technique necessarily. He was spending his life and his studying the darkness. But he is a good killer. He's just a good killer, and it's not elegant, it's brutal, and they did a really good job. That can sometimes be such a subtle difference, but they did such a good job of really telegraphing that, because I think it is so important to the character. Because what, like the Jedi, it is like the lightsaber being elegant is so intrinsic to what the Jedi are, and we need to really like to get across the point that this is a tool of mass murder. You have to really take that element away from it.
I think there's truth in that. I had a different but similar interpretation of like Kymir's relationship to it. Like, because I like in my thread, I go very detailed. Like this is a very like talented swordsman who has mastered the art. And again, I think part of it, and I'm just so hung up on Kymir's relationship to his power. And that desire for it, and to, like I said earlier, let his like dark side freak flag fly. That it is important to him to be a master swordsman, because that is the most potent, like what's the word I'm looking for? Concentrated, like display of his power is dealing death, and that like he needs that is that there is a competency there. If you're dealing with somebody who wants to be liberated from the Jedi and their constraints on the galaxy, you need to be able to kill fucking Jedi. And that I love that idea that this is a manifestation of that. And it goes to a very interesting quote that Darth Sidious had in the Jedi Path, which is that like Jedi Bible that everybody loves so much. It has a lot about the seven forms in it. It's where I learned a lot of what I know about it from. But in there, because like it's like in universe is a copy of like basically the Jedi handbook that has been passed down through the generations. That like Yoda had it, and Dooku had it, and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka and and then eventually it gets to Luke, and then but before it got to Luke, it got to the Emperor. And like Sidious has like a really fascinating, sinister note in there where he basically proclaims that the Sith have outgrown the need for the lightsaber and only use it as a way to mock the Jedi. I think that's personally a thing for Sidious. He has clearly outgrown the need for a lightsaber, as on a technical level, he's not great with it.
Right.
But I think there is that level of like, yes, I will master your martial arts. We will, like, because like that's another fascinating thing, is that the Sith do not, like, there are the seven forms of lightsaber combat as created by the Jedi Order. The Sith did not create counter martial arts. They just dark sideified the ones the Jedi made,
Right.
because they were able to recognize, oh yeah, you pretty much figured out the best ways to use these things, but not quite like how we can do it. Which I think is a fascinating thing. So like, I love this. I think is, again, and this is me putting a lot of like my own lore baggage onto it. So like, I'm very aware of the fact that like tomorrow Leslie Hadland could say something completely contradictory, and you know what I will do? Not send death threats to the people who run Wookiee fucking pedia.
But you go outside, Jared.
Because my precious seven forms got fucked with.
You also have sex, so there is that.
True. Facts. But but like I love this idea that like he's mastered form 7 Juya, which like is this incredibly complex, ferocious, almost animalistic when you let it get the better of you fighting style that is, again, so complex and so martially advanced that it's like a prerequisite that if you are going to attempt to practice Form 7, it is like you should probably be like proficient with like a couple other Jedi martial arts. In my thread, it's why like when I say that I have Mace Windu and Darth Sidious right next to each other because they are both Form 7 practitioners. These motherfuckers don't fight the same way.
Right.
They are both masters of their respect of this martial art, and they do not apply it remotely in the same way. And that's what's so fascinating about Juya. And that's what I love about chimeras is that when you look at somebody who uses Form 7, you can also start to pick out here are the other forms you baked into it. Because again, it is so personal. And seeing that like there is a lot of finesse in Chimere's blade work, that you see a lot of that Count Dooku style like cut and thrust. Like there's like a brief passage in the fight with Soul where he like practically has his arm behind his back like Dooku and is like bop 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 bop, like like you see that like almost European fencing style stuff in there married with that reverse grip, very physically engaged Shien stuff, that like he is a martial fucking monster and it is terrifying. And again, back to the brutality of that choreography again, like it's in the kills. Again, the Jedi shish kebab, terrifying. Like, not to go to a really dark, macabre place, but motherfucker, think about what that's like. Like, you just got your shit burned through. You just watched your friend get their shit burned through. You have your telekinetic barrier shattered like a toothpick.
Yep.
Pulled onto that blade, and then you just get to live in a brief 5 seconds of agony, not knowing what comes next as your head gets lopped off, and then you watch.
Oh my god!
And a couple other people watch.
You're
that
just like this.
Yeah, just like that. Just like that is horrifying. It is the genius of the Sith's ability to use psychological warfare. And it's one of my favorite things, back when we were like debating lightsaber wounds in the first week of this show, so many people looked over that again, yes, is death by lightsaber a wildly inconsistent thing? Yes. Does what a near-death experience represents for a character trump like getting like really fucking anal and medical with what happens when hot plasma makes contact with squishy organs? Yes, I don't fucking care. But there's this beautiful passage in Light of the Jedi where Loden Greatstorm is talking about like the reason why the Jedi use the lightsaber is that it is a weapon that you can use that can inflict the exact amount of injury that you desire.
Right.
This is not a blaster where, I'm going to aim for his shoulder, but I might shoot him in the heart. It's not as clumsy or random as a blaster. That is the point. Is I have to kick your ass. You've created a situation where I got to run a fade on you. I don't want to kill you, but you're giving me no choice, so I'm going to take off your arm. I'm sorry I have scarred you for the rest of your life, but I didn't want to have to kill you, so this was the best I could do. And it is, like you were saying earlier, the paradox of the Jedi's relationship with violence. Because they do not set out to cleave motherfuckers in half. It is the last resort, and lethal force is an even later last resort, especially when you have a weapon that, yes, can be painful, is designed to not have to kill everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have the psychological warfare of the Sith perversion of all of this. That is, because this weapon is so capable of grotesque violence, the psychological warfare options of leaving people in fucking pieces for their comrades to have to look at while I wail on them is something that cannot be overlooked. It's why so many of these kills are so fucking vicious. Chimere could have slit Jeky's throat.
Yeah, that one like I had to pause and get up and walk away for 2 seconds because it was just, and then to finish that to like complete to immediately follow that up with, was that its name, was just the coldest motherfucking thing that I
it absolutely was. Like, and that's I told you off microphone, like my like everybody's like, oh, Kymir's so hot. Yeah, like Danny Jacinto, he's fucking good God. Like I'll drop neck in a second, like fine, but like you can't come back from killing a child like that and saying that shit for me.
Right.
Like I
Right.
joked with Taylor, where she was like, oh, like my Khmer killed my two favorites, so I guess using Darksaber logic, Khmer is my new favorite character. And I was like, honey, it took me 15 years to even entertain the idea of liking Darth Maul for what he did to Qui-Gon Jinn. Like,
Absolutely.
I can't. Was that its name? Fuck you. Die slow. I hope it hurts. Like, but again, but going back to the Jackie thing though, like again, like literally, and again, this is macabre and it's a little dark, but like it's important to the show and like the place that the horrifying wasteland that is Kymir's mind and psyche. He has Jackie in a bind and has all of those openings with his Shoto. He could have slit her throat. He could have decapitated her. He could have stabbed her in the heart.
But he had
That
an audience at that moment too, and that was,
exactly. So instead of quick clean kill, okay, she's done. I can move on to the next one. He, in a similar way that May has throughout the show, which is another fascinating idea, relies on knowing the empathy of the Jedi is their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. And that watching Jackie, basically from the same point of view we as the audience had, of watching three distinct painful burn holes appear through her back, would stop Soul in his tracks.
Absolutely.
It's the
Absolutely.
psychological warfare. Again, immediately followed up by the unceremonious nature of snapping Yord's neck. Like it is psychological goddamn warfare. It's not something I talked about in the thread because I was like more talking about like the martial arts element of it. But like that is horrific shit. This man is a fucking monster. Again, like Darth Vader for all of his horror and all of his power and all of his depravity, like, most of his psychological fear or most of his psychological warfare boiled down to him knowing he's scary as fuck. I'm surrounded by fear and dead men. That moment in Thrawn or in
Alliances?
Lords of the Sith.
Oh yeah. Oh well, Lords of the Sith. He's like fighting large cockroaches.
Yeah, but in that beginning part where there's like that ship to ship battle and he boards the rebel craft, where there's like like Commander whatever the fuck, come in, and Vader knows that the scariest thing for him to do is to pick up that con link, hit the on button, and just go
right. Yep.
And like, no, everybody just made sure they wrote their will. Vader is not deliberately making sure you see your friends in pieces around you.
But also remember that Vader always he still does have he still has a fragment of a conscience. He also has a pull to the light. I don't think Khmer does. I think whatever shreds of his, I think probably much in the way that this lovely book that I hope comes back into canon by the end of this series makes a point of saying that Mr. Sidious was a diagnosed sociopath.
Yeah.
Like I think Khmer's obviously he was just probably a very deeply and profoundly mentally ill human who was preyed upon because they make for very good targets in these situations. So I think he already came from a place of tremendous darkness, and I think he's completely taken over by it by the time that we meet him. And I think that this is kind of important because we have had, you've had Anakin, you've had Ben both pulled from and to the light, and back. And then you've had Maul, who they gave as sort of sympathetic a story as he could have, given what the character was. I think we need to see a Sith in canon who's pure bad, who's just there is nothing redeeming. We need to see the complete and total monster, because I don't really think that we've gotten that yet. Even with Sidious, we haven't gotten that yet, because he's kind of like he's kind of charismatic, and he's never like as much as I guess he is fully a monster, and according to this book, he is basically what happens when, like, a billionaire gets supernatural power, but like he's not truly deep dark demon in the way that Chimere is.
Yeah,
And I think,
he's
like,
he's a
it's
he's a
really
power hungry little man, and Chimere
Mhm.
is a monster who developed the god complex.
Right, exactly,
Both of
exactly.
them are capable, obviously, of like horrendous acts of violence, but they do manifest differently. And again, it lends itself towards that horror movie villain thing with Chimere. Um, but yeah, no, man, this episode was incredible. I'm absolutely loving this fucking show, and uh, I'm ready to take a little breather and have a flashback. I know I say that knowing that whatever happens in the flashback will also be fucking horrific. Um, but I'm ready. I'm ready to take a breath, take a break, and to to quote the often clipped Alex Jones on this show. I just need to take a little breaky now. A little breaky for me, and then we will come back and I will start the show over. But I know there's a handful of people who listen to Knowledge Fight who watch this show. I know there's a handful, because every couple weeks there's a, hey, promote whatever you're working on, and I throw this show in that thread, and I've had a few people be like, oh yeah, I gotta tune in. So I make a point of sneaking in a couple Knowledge Fight memes into the episode. Even ones that nobody else notices. They're just there for me. Sometimes Taylor will walk by as I say it, and she'll like open the door and wink at me because she also listens to Knowledge Fight. There's a lot I sneak in there that people don't know about, that I don't call attention to being an Alex Jones joke, but a little breaky now. A little breaky for me. And then we will come back. The actual quote, and it's beautiful. I'm so happy I get to watch this man lose everything in real time. But anyway, Reagan, where can the lovely people find you, my friend?
I am Regobah on Twitter. I am Newt Regan on TikTok. I am Oysters on the Half Shirt on Instagram, because I like to make it as difficult as possible. But yeah, I'm kind of bouncing around all over the podcast space, and I can't say what it is, but I just did a self-tape for something that I might end up being like the official commercial spokesperson for. I can't say a word about it, but any good juju that you want to send me for it?
It's Roosevelt's.
It's not shirts. Not shirts. I'm not even really wearing a shirt today, but
We don't
yeah,
mind.
I mean, I know that that's like, it's your life's blood, so I'm not gonna insult it, but
You
but
still
yeah,
got to get that Jar Jar shirt.
so
You still got to get that Jar Jar shirt.
I really want that Jar Jar. I can't believe you were wearing it yesterday, because that was the exact one I was going to send you a screenshot of.
If
because
Kaysen had made it to the episode, the picture I used for him in thumbnails, he's also wearing it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Because he
That's
also has it.
amazing.
If you look at some of I think last week's episode, he's wearing that in the thumbnail.
That's amazing.
Oh, I'm getting the matching shorts soon. Like whenever my fit of the summer, once I get those shorts, it's gonna be the matching Jar Jar Roosevelt's tux and the fucking Jordan 4 military blues. Like it is a hot Jar Jar summer.
And nobody can pull it off quite like you, like
No.
Yusa.
No. Misa,
I was looking
Misa,
like
Misa got that shit on.
my work is having a pool party for my birthday. It's not really for my birthday, it's just happening on my birthday. So I was like frantically trying to find a Jar Jar bikini yesterday, and I'm like ashamed of what my Google searches are now. Like it's horrifying.
I was saying Roosevelt's used to have a lot of swimsuits. They don't these days, but
oh, that's a shame. That is a tragedy.
Yeah, Taylor has one that matches. This is a very cute and sentimental thing. what Taylor refers to as her first Roosevelt is the first Roosevelt she stole from me.
Aw.
Which is it's like a really nice like black and white shirt called Hut Stepper. It's just got like palm trees and like little like huts and bungalows all over it.
Aw.
It was one of my favorite shirts, and then she was like, "This is mine now." But they were doing like a last chance sale like, years ago, and they had like one Hut Stepper swimsuit left, and in her size, I was like, "Fucking need that right now!" And scooped it up. So I like you just took my brain
Aw.
there, and I thought of that. But
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
yeah,
Well,
you see,
finally, I will.
these are the wonderful things you get to do with your life if you like stop sending people fucking death threats over Coyote Mundi.
Yeah, I think that's it's really important that you should not do that, and also go outside. Go outside and make actual friends. I'm trying to stare directly into my camera when I say this. I promise you, your life will be a better, happier place. And the thing about Star Wars, like the most amazing thing about Star Wars that I feel like a lot of these people need to know, because it doesn't seem to click, is that it's not happening in real time. It's not like you're standing in the middle of an actual conflict. If you don't like Star Wars, you can turn it off. You can put the laptop down and you can go somewhere else. It's so easy. You should think about it. You should do that, because what you're doing now, is not really a paper trail that you want to leave if you ever plan to get a job anywhere any time. But that's just me.
Digital footprint, my ass. But yeah, go follow Reagan on all the things and send her all the good vibes and channel the force to her to get this really cool gig if it comes through. You guys can find me personally on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. You can also catch me over at Epic Confrontations, the Star Wars Trivia League that I participate in. There is a big plotline development that will involve both me and the lovely Reagan over here, as well as Bill. So stay tuned for that. There's a big plot twist coming in EC, baby. Which is very exciting. You can also find me over at the Pro and Noob. Mitch keeps telling me not to call it a podcast, but I don't know another word for it. So you can find me over at the Pro and Noob, not a podcast, over at the Mitch692 YouTube channel, where he's taking me through Neon Genesis Evangelion one episode at a time. This has been a lot of fun. I am slowly losing my fucking mind trying to figure out what in God's green earth is going on in this show. But I'm having a blast. I hope you guys go check that out. And then we are wrapping up season 2 of Ionized Bastards here soon. So go over to the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel. By the time this will be coming out before Ionized Bastards, but it's coming on the same day. So around 4 p.m. Eastern time is when Michael typically drops Ionized Bastards. So check that out. The penultimate episode of the season. If you're not caught up, get caught up. So you can watch as sparks fly as we bring home this second season and see if the Ionized Bastards can save the galaxy from a bioweapon from a scorned mob boss. So tune in for that. And then if you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you get podcasts, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you want to get your hands on some TNAP merch, you can click that student store link.
T-public.com.
Like the brand new Cookie Cop Vintage t-shirt over at the Nerd Academy Podcast Student Store TeePublic page. I really want people to buy this shirt.
I will buy it as soon as we get off this pod. I'm going to buy it immediately. I wish you made it in a girly style, but I'm going to buy it.
No, hold on. Female fit, classic t-shirt. Yeah, tri-blend V-neck.
Is there a crop top?
I don't think they have a crop top option, but you can definitely crop it.
I will definitely crop it.
I deliberately moved it up further on the thing so people could crop it.
Yay!
Because I had a feeling you specifically would want to crop it. I'm not even gonna lie.
Give you that idea.
But yeah, you can get it on a hoodie, on a tank top, on a sweatshirt, on a long sleeve t-shirt, a baseball t-shirt. You can get it on all kinds of shit, guys. Like we need the Cookie Cop shirt out in circulation. I need to see it happen. This is a shirt that will also suspiciously go well with my Jordan military blues. Okay, so I work at a shoe store. This is just for no reason in particular, just because I brought it up twice. So on May 4th, they released the Jordan 4 Military Blues. I've never been a Nike or Jordan guy until I started working for this store. I started working for this company. And I, because I had worked for Journeys for a long time and they don't sell Nike stuff. So I'm getting into like the Nike Jordan ecosystem. And I love blue. I love that shade of blue. I thought it looked really nice. They put a pair on hold for me because I was in Philadelphia for Fan Expo that weekend of May 4th. I come back, I go to wait until I get paid next to buy these shoes, and then they accidentally sold the pair that I had on hold. I was livid about it.
Oh my God.
And I was bitching about it to anybody who would listen because I was very frustrated. Because those shoes cost like an extra $150 to get hands on them after the fact. And I'm like, I was excited to buy them because I would get 30% off. I'm not trying to have a 30% increase.
Right.
So then last week, one of the luckiest little moments I've ever had in retail in my life. Some guy returned a pair of the Jordan 4 Military Blues in my size.
Oh, amazing.
Like a straight up 11 and a half. Like, it wasn't even a stretch. It was like, I got to make an 11 work, or, it'll be a little big, but it's a 12. Like, no, an 11 and a half came right back into my store. And I looked at everybody. I was like, if anybody fucking touches these, I'm leaving this mall in handcuffs. But yeah, there's just so much you can do with the Cookie Cup vintage tee. So anyway, you can do that, and if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to Paco, or as he's going by on our Patreon right now, the oldie but the goodie, El Frona.
Maybe I'll walk out of here tomorrow and you never see me again. That's really what I want to do.
I don't know if that glitched for anybody else, but it did for me. And thank you to our other $10 patron, Ray Clausen, who asked that you donate to Equality Texas and help keep queer kids safe in the Lone Star State. This weekend, subscribers to the $5 tier will be getting 3 episodes of the Knights of the Nerd Republic Patreon versus series. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Ezra Bridger in the tank. I have to do a little bit of editing on that, but that'll be out. And then we are recording 2 more episodes as well. I'm not sure which ones because we have basically the lineup for this season set up. But I'm just gonna look. I'm just gonna decide on air right now. That's what I'm gonna do. Give me one moment.
I need you to know that Cookie Cop smells so bad, and I don't know why. It's
all the sulfur from the pits of fucking hell. Okay, cool. So you guys will be getting Obi-Wan Kenobi circa The Phantom Menace versus Ezra Bridger circa Ahsoka. You will be getting Rey Skywalker circa The Last Jedi versus Luke Skywalker circa The Empire Strikes Back. And you will be getting Darth Maul versus Shakti all this weekend. There's a little triple header so we can get caught up in very quick succession. So we are getting better about that because our schedules are starting to relent on us. So yeah, check out all of those things. Check out Regan on social media. Watch Ionized Bastards, Epic Confrontations, and Pro and Noob. We will be back here next week to talk about the next episode of The Acolyte. We'll be streaming live immediately after the episode to do a quick little decompression session talk back. And yeah, we are honored that you have joined us. May the Force be with you always and for light and life.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!